life is not in your hands. Your life is in the hands of God.
Violent Midget 300 just resubbed for 27 months.
All right, everybody. Welcome. Good to see you. Guys, this whole time, I thought I was messing the music up. And I was like, what is wrong with my audio? And I just realized it's really quiet. That's it. It's just been really quiet. Oh, no, it crashed. This keeps crashing on me. Okay, never mind. I thought I knew the answer. I didn't know the answer. Might have to go musicless tonight. I don't know. I'm going to try to get this going one more time. This is, it looks, and I think I know what's going on. It looks like it's playing one song. And that's it. That's what I think is happening. Pretzel is getting harder and harder to use. And again, it might be that I'm trying to use the free version. And they're like, yeah, we don't want you doing that. So let me try to figure something out here. But welcome. I hope you are well. Violent, thank you so much. 27 months. Absolute crazy. Appreciate you. Awesome. And let me just try to figure this music thing out. And if I can't get it to work, I quit with the music. No, I don't quit the stream. But yeah, like everything wants me to go premium, go pro. What's pro? See, they want me to pay. Everything wants me to pay now. This used to be a free app with other options. Now it's quickly becoming not what I want it to be. I just want it to play light background music. Is that so hard? Is that so difficult? Let's try chill guitars. That's what we've been doing. I wonder if, let's try chill jazz. Will that be too funky? Okay, I can get with this. Let's see if this keeps playing. I don't know. Guys, professional streamer over here. Okay, let me knock the music down. Good enough. And let's go ahead and head over to Logos. All right, guys, so there's a couple of things I wanted to work on tonight. Let me close that out. And the first thing I want to work on is the class that I'm teaching tomorrow. The class I'm teaching tomorrow is on philosophy of ministry service. And here's the idea. Like, why do we serve in the church? What's the point? Should we create opportunities for service? Should we be trying to compel people to serve in certain capacities? Like, there's this whole question in our church surrounding service, and I want to get some answers. So we're going to spend some time talking about that. I've referenced a couple of resources I have here that have material on service. So we'll just look at those and then just want to think through some ideas surrounding the concepts of service, right? Cal Magic, no problem. I'll just imagine I'm in an elevator. That's right, Cal Magic. That's what we have to do. I can't play music that's too distracting, all right? It would take away from what I'm trying to accomplish on here. It's good to see you, Cal Magic. How are you? I hope you are well. Good tea. Hojicha tonight, which is like a smoked Japanese green tea. I think they take sencha. Probably not sencha. Probably, well, maybe sencha. They take a lower grade green tea and then they smoke it. Really good. It's super smooth, not bitter at all. Love me some hojicha. Been a while since I had it. So yeah, that's what we're drinking tonight. Let's see. Perk, hello, good to see you. Oh, it's live. Hello, good afternoon, people. Good afternoon to you as well, Perk. Thanks for swinging by. We are live. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, anything like that. Let me, for now, bring the chat over here so they're all next to each other. And, yeah, we'll go from there. Okay, good enough. So what I want to research is, again, this topic of service. Service is a really important thing for the church to be focused on. It's important for us to do, but I don't know that we have a good theology of it. I think a lot of people have assumptions that they've made surrounding what service is, what it should be, how you should do it, right? But our theology should not be made out of assumptions. We should go through and try to systematically get a better understanding or idea, okay? This is what I've got so far. All service to others is to God. There's this reference in Matthew where Jesus essentially says, in serving others, you serve him, right? If you clothe somebody who's naked, if you feed somebody who's hungry, you've done this to him. So service rendered to others, to other human beings, is service rendered to Jesus, service rendered to God. So that's an important concept or idea. Also, I think that there are certain people in my church who are concerned about laziness, that others in the church are being spiritually lazy. And so I've just written down some stuff regarding laziness that might be relevant to talk about. What's up, Matthew? Good to see you. Welcome, welcome. And then I just want to talk about backgrounds. People have different expectations surrounding service. Slippery slope arguments have come up, where if you don't serve in one capacity, what's this going to lead to? And then I want to talk about specific applications. I'm toying with this idea about compelling service. I have here, we should not compel service under any circumstances, but I don't know if that's true. What would be the difference between compelling and encouraging or exhorting? So those are some of the ideas I'm trying to figure out. Matthew says, I brought the WBC collection during this sale. WBC, excellent commentary set. I think you're really going to enjoy that, Matthew. Fantastic. Congrats. Enjoy, enjoy. Perk, hey, Pastor, it's nice to see you again. I used to watch your Twitch streams often-ish about 2 years ago, but had some issues and hadn't joined a stream till now. Glad to see you still drinking tea. Haha. Yes, indeed. Well, I'm glad you're back, and thank you so much for swinging by, and feel free to ask any questions if you have them. Yep, still drinking tea, still doing my thing. I don't stream video games now. Probably back then, Perk, I was streaming video games and other stuff too. I just do sermon prep now on Mondays. So that's where we're at now. But glad you've dropped back in. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for swinging by. All right. Matthew says, what are your thoughts on BDAG Halot? That's what I want next. Those are the gold standards when it comes to lexicons, right? Halot is the gold standard for Hebrew, and BDAG is the gold standard for Greek. They're in depth, okay? So if you have no need to consult the original languages in depth, they're overkill. But if you want to consult the original languages in depth, they're kind of considered the top one or top three resources for each of their languages. And sometimes those are considered number one and number one for each language. So yeah, those are really good ones. All right, Cal Magic says, been thinking about imaging language and thinking based on some of our conversations that functional, relational, and substantive views of God's image. We need to think that all views are at work instead of negating two views and holding on to one. Priestly language and reflecting the glory of God is a form of service. Those are different comments. Cal Magic, I think that first comment is really interesting because I have fallen into the habit in my church of talking about head, heart, hands always. Head, heart, hands, head, heart, hands, head, heart, hands. I think you can roughly map these things onto kingly, priestly, and, what's the third one? Anyway, you have these kingly, priestly categories that are often utilized in these discussions. And yeah, I think there might be something there. The many old philosophers used to talk about the thinking, the feelings, and the willing, right, as three categories. And so if we're imaging God in all three categories, I think that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I have a room for that. I think that's valuable. Thanks for bringing it up. And then priestly language and reflecting the glory of God is a form of service. I also think that makes a lot of sense because there's a lot of Genesis 1 when it comes to priestly. And so we can absolutely throw that in here. Perk says, oh yeah, I remember you were trying some games for some time, but I found you when you were doing what you do now. Hope you've been doing well. Yeah, I've been doing very well, Perk. So I graduated from seminary and got my Master's of Divinity last September, October-ish, something like that. And since then, I've been focusing a lot of time, effort, energy into the church and just trying to beef up my contributions there. So now I'm teaching regularly. For example, I'm teaching this class tomorrow. And I'm teaching, 2 to 3 times a month on some biblical topic outside of my regular Sunday morning preaching. And I'm trying to clarify what's going on in the church itself. And then, my family, I got 2 young children. Jess's music is going really well. She just released a song that has done really well. And it even got played on Sirius XM radio for a month. And then she's got 3 or 4 songs in the pipeline right now, too. So we're busy. We got a lot going on, a lot of irons in the fire, trying to be faithful in all the given categories, but we're doing very well. So thank you. Thanks for asking. Matthew says, can you live stream the class? It will be live streamed, Matthew. It's going to be live streamed to our church channel. The church channel is, if you go to this YouTube channel, Matthew, you can see linked channels, and one of my linked channels is the church YouTube channel. And I think it's just First Baptist Church of Leadville. If you type that into YouTube, you should be able to find the channel directly, and that's where we live stream all our classes. The name of the song, well, she has so many out now. I'm embarrassed to say I don't remember. Oof. I thought it was called Save Me, but it may not be. Let me just look real quick. Oh no. What have I done? Okay, here we go. We are going to type Jesse Lee Thetford Save Me. Is that the recent one? No, Save Me is a recent release, but it's not the one that was getting played on Sirius. So if you guys go... Oh, man. I can't even copy a link. I'm so old. I can't remember how to do stuff like this. So you can look up Save Me by Jesse Lee Thetford. That has done well recently, but it's not the one that was getting played on Sirius. Sirius satellite radio was... Man, it's a really recent release, too. No. I forget, y'all. If Jess were here, she would tell me, and then she would criticize me. She wouldn't criticize me. I can't find it. Man, lots of random Jesse Lee Thetford music on here, though. That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I think it might have been this one called Distant World. I think it was this one, Distant World. No, that one's too old. I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry. All right. Cal Magic says, not sure your congregation is ready, but I just finished chapter 3, Christian Mysticism, and there was a really good discussion from Augustine in humility and proper worship resulting in humble and remorseful spirit that leads to true worship and service for God, instead of doing good to feed our egos. Lots of thought here. Hope you can flesh it out. Yeah. I think you're right. I don't think I would present that to the entirety of the congregation. I think it's a little too out there for them. You know, we got to hit the basics on Christian service first, right? So anyway, let's see. Perk says, as for questions, I have many, but if you don't mind, I'll just keep it to a few this time. I don't mean to bombard you with questions. Yes, I remember that. She was doing some singing streams, but last I recall, she stopped for some time. I'm glad she didn't stop. Congrats to her. By the way, this jazz is top notch. Gotta say, I love it. And I guess that's my first question. Mitch, which music do you find acceptable as a Christian? Would you stick to just instrumental jazz and classical? Yeah, that's a good question. I often leave this up to conscience. Okay? A lot of people have a strong conviction one way or another about the music that is listened to. And I never want anyone to violate their conscience. So if your conscience is sensitive and doesn't want you listening to secular music, then don't. And many people I know will only listen to Christian contemporary music or, like you say, instrumental jazz, classical, etc. I like classical. I like listening to that. Like you said, instrumental jazz. I like that as well. But I also listen to secular music sometimes. Now, you need to be careful because secular music does influence you. And it influences you in a subversive way. It influences you in ways and on levels that you can't understand. Okay, so you have to be very sensitive, pumping your mind full of subversive music. However, I find that if you are strong in your faith and your Christian, I don't know how to put it, not commitments, your spiritual disciplines. If you're strong in those things, I find that the secular music doesn't necessarily have to influence you negatively. But it takes a lot of self-reflection, takes a lot of being objective with yourself, and I wouldn't recommend it for everyone. Okay? I think of this similar to the way I think of people studying false religions. A lot of people are interested in false religions, but if you're not solidly grounded in the truth, I wouldn't recommend you just go out there willy-nilly studying the false religions, right? You're going to wind up confusing yourself. You haven't really oriented yourself to the Spirit well yet. You know what I mean? So you'll just get lost. But that doesn't preclude all Christians from studying false religions. You see what I mean? Pastor Tanner listens to that country goodness while he's driving. Haha. I actually don't listen to much country music. It's one of the genres I like least, actually. It's grown on me. I don't mind country music here and there, but it's not a genre I really like. I used to listen to a lot of Christian rap and hip-hop from the likes of Lecrae and Andy Mineo, etc. I've since stopped listening to that genre almost entirely, but I used to listen to that quite a bit. Yeah, good question. All right, let's dig in. I saw this little book here, 10 Power Principles for Christian Service by Wiersbe. I like Wiersbe a lot, and I wasn't going to read this whole thing, but what are we looking at here in terms of service? I already like what I'm seeing. The foundation of ministry is character. The nature of ministry is service. The motive of ministry is love. The measure of ministry is sacrifice. These all look really good to me to kind of get us going on the topic of service for our church. The other one that I've been going through, and I'm on chapter 4 right now, it hasn't proved immensely helpful, but partially so thus far. This is just a little handbook called Service, Ministry with Heart and Hands, 10 Studies for Individuals or Groups by Paul Stevens. And I've gone through the first 3 chapters. Lots of good questions. So if you could find the questions that are relevant to the class or the sections that are relevant to the class, that'd be super helpful. Like it is from this resource that I found that Ephesians 4-6 is all about service. All 3 of these chapters. We could do far worse than just tomorrow reading Ephesians 4-6 and talking about it. Now, I think we can do better than that, but we could do much worse than that. That would give us a good framework from which to dive into the topic of service. So, yeah. Alrighty. Let's see. Cal Magic. I got one of my favorite quotes from Secular Music, Jethro Tull. My God is not the kind you wind up on Sundays. Ooh, that is a good one. I like it. All right. So let's go through this one. Here they're trying to talk about Bezalel and Dorcas as examples of service. I'm going to be honest, I don't know this Bezalel figure that well. Then Moses said to the people of Israel, See, the Lord has called by name Bezalel, the son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, and he has filled him with the Spirit of God, with skill, with intelligence, with knowledge, and with all craftsmanship, to devise artistic designs, to work in gold and silver and bronze and cutting stones. So it sounds like he's using his giftings to serve. This brings up, I think, a fairly helpful point, actually, and it's that I think ideally, like, what is service? Why should we serve? What is service? Why should we serve? Well, I think at bottom, we are ushering in the kingdom. And ushering in the kingdom requires work. And the work we are doing to usher in the kingdom is the rendering of service. Now, the church itself is our little visible portion of the kingdom here on earth. And so if it's functioning correctly, the church empowers and enables people to serve, and then people serve the church. And you get a symbiotic relationship that is a positive spiral, if you will. So I think that's kind of the first idea. The church is the visible portion of the kingdom we are currently participating in. If the church is being run correctly, it, 1, offers people opportunities to serve. This benefits the kingdom. The work gets done. This benefits the individual. their service incrementally conforms them to Christ, and their service, if it is in line with their giftings, brings them joy and satisfaction. So that's kind of my first take. So it offers people opportunities to serve. And probably encourages them to serve as well. I'll put this, though. Creates a positive feedback loop or virtuous circle/spiral. Perk says, gotta say, it was recently that I realized what you said about music influencing a person's subconsciousness is so very true. Some types of music do normalize things in the mind. Oddly interesting. Yes. And it's not only certain types of music and lyrics, but it's also the genre of that music, the structure of it, the timbre of the music. All of these things influence us, and they influence us subversively. That's not to say that's wrong. We're subversively influenced by a lot of things. Advertising, for example. And I wouldn't run around telling people, don't view any advertisements. That's sin. Not the case. You'd have to run around with your eyes closed and your ears stopped all day long. But you got to recognize you're being affected by the advertising. And music, in a sense, is advertising to you certain worldviews, certain concepts, principles, ideas as normative or good or valuable. And you need to be aware of that, right? Be aware of the ways that you are influenced subversively through music, either positively or negatively. Okay. Let's go ahead and I want to talk about the best kind of service. Actually, I think there are two kinds of service. Two kinds of service aimed at different ends. First is what we see here in Exodus. First is in alignment with your giftings. This is the virtuous circle part. Because if you're serving in alignment with your giftings, you're getting joy and satisfaction out of it. The kingdom is advanced, and joy and satisfaction are also achieved. But it's not the only way. You can also serve out of alignment with your giftings. And you might do this primarily because service conforms you to the image of Christ. In this sense, serving in those capacities you find least compelling is desirable. Why? Because you are being conformed to the image of Christ in an area in which you are weak. So, a lot of personal growth comes when you know thyself, and when you know thyself, you recognize, okay, I am strong in this area, so I don't need a lot of work there, although I enjoy doing it, but I'm weak in this area, and I do need a lot of work there, so I'm going to try to lean into that. Perk says, would it be wrong to summarize your point as, if you're strong about your faith and don't normalize bad tendencies / behavior, the song might be all right, right-ish? Yeah, that's right-ish, Perk. I would tend to say, yeah, that's right-ish. I would tend to say the secular music is... Now, not everybody is the same level of spiritual maturity. Not everybody is affected and sensitive in the same ways. Let's give just a stereotypical example. The drinking of alcohol, okay? Now, some people are alcoholics, and therefore they should never step foot in a bar because they are alcoholics, and that is going to drag them down, okay? They're just not... That's not their gifting, and they're not able to serve in that capacity. Other people have no problems with alcohol whatsoever. And so for them to go into a bar and to share Jesus with people and, you know, try to build relationships there, etc., would be fine. And we need the gospel in bars, right? We need people to be talking about God there. So it's a lot about know thyself in this situation. Now, And for some people, they're not alcoholics and they're not like completely immune to alcohol, but they're somewhere in between. Each person is going to have to examine their potential for bar ministry differently. I think this is similar. I would apply a similar principle to music. Now, it's different because music is recreation. It's not required necessarily for anyone, etc. But for me, the same approach applies. It's, okay, what is my tendency as an individual? Do I tend to be influenced by these things negatively or not? How mature am I in these areas? And etc. And then you can get a greater sense for should you be listening to these things or not. The problem is most people aren't willing to be objective with themselves. Most people are trying to justify their bad behavior, right? So they're behaving in a certain way. They want to justify their behavior. They hear somebody like me say, Pastor Tanner said it's okay to listen to secular music, even though that secular music is really dragging them down, okay? Well, know thyself. I never forget I said know thyself. And if that's dragging you down, stop it, okay? I'll tell you, I'll just give an example for me. This is an example for me here. Let's go to the big screen. All right, this is a personal example from me in one of the things I'm weak at, and that is I'm really weak at my self-discipline. I can spend hours and hours and hours playing video games. I can spend hours and hours and hours binging YouTube videos, okay? I have to carefully regulate how and when I play video games and how and when I watch YouTube. And I do not think it would be a negative hit on my life if I chose to go cold turkey and never watch another YouTube video and never play another video game. That's because of my personality. I have no off switch. I struggle with gluttony. I could just keep going and going and going and going, right? And I need to be very, very careful about playing video games or watching YouTube videos. Now, imagine I made that a rule for everyone, okay? I decided I'm never going to play video games again. I'm never going to watch YouTube again. And it immensely improved my life. I got more done for the kingdom. I was more effective. I had greater life satisfaction. I was there more for my family. On and on and on you go. Nothing but improvements for me. It would be very easy for me to make a rule for everyone. You shouldn't play video games and you shouldn't watch YouTube videos because video games and YouTube videos will drag you away from God. They're distractions, etc. Boom. And how many religious people have you met who do just that? They take guidelines that have been helpful for them in their lives and they turn them into rules that all Christians must follow. That is not correct. That is not how we should be living our lives as Christians. We need to listen to the Spirit and we need to know ourselves and seek to obey the spirit of God's law rather than merely or only the letter. Don't get me wrong. Rules can be good for the immature. If you aren't mature and you don't even know where you're at, if you don't even know how to orient yourself, you need good, solid, black and white rules. I wouldn't give my young toddler, gray, well, maybe this, maybe that. It might be okay to eat ice cream for breakfast. It might not be, maybe you should go to the bathroom in the toilet rather than in your pants. Maybe not. It really depends. No, we give hard, fast rules and expectations. Why? Because our children are immature. And so they need rules to help orient themselves in the world. But as you listen to the Spirit and you mature in the faith, you begin to hear the voice of God. Now you have a greater sense of the gray in the world and how to navigate it with nuance and tension. So that's what I would say. I might need to create rules for myself because I'm immature, but that doesn't mean I need to create rules for everyone, because those people who are mature in the areas of self-control don't need me to be telling them to never play video games. Does that make sense? This is a really good question. Would you say it's a matter of character, what kind of man you are and all that, self-control, discipline, and such? Absolutely. That's a huge piece of it. But again, very few people are willing to be objective with themselves. Very few people will look in the mirror and say, I'm a materialist. And because I'm a materialist, I need to be very careful about my purchasing, right? Very few people will do that. A lot of people will look in the mirror and justify themselves, rationalize their behavior, but at the end of the day, they're allowing themselves to be weak and undisciplined in the faith because they don't want to do the hard work, right? Or some other subconscious excuse. Anyway, great questions, Perk. Enjoying the conversation. Thank you. All right, so this is all just me kind of popping off the top of my head. But it strikes me, it strikes me that the Bezalel verses are right in alignment with this, okay? That's this Exodus 35, 32, 36, 1. So I like to look at these personal reflection questions. You can often drop these into sermons or studies, and it really causes people to engage with the material in a new and unique way. Would any of these work? When was the last time you made something with your hands? How did you go about it? Did you imagine it first in your mind and then make it? What satisfaction did you have in making it? Did you regard this as service to yourself and expressiveness, to a neighbor, or even to God, and why? So that's very interesting. That's not quite where I wanted to go with all this stuff. Let's see what the Acts 9 passage says. Okay. Now, as Peter went here and there among them, he came down also to the saints who lived at Lydda. And there he met a man named Aeneas, bedridden for 8 years, who was paralyzed. Peter said to him, Aeneas, Jesus Christ heals you. Rise and make your bed. And immediately he rose. And all the residents of Lydda and Sharon saw him, and they turned to the Lord. Now there was in Joppa a disciple named Tabitha, which translated means Dorcas. She was full of good works and acts of charity. In those days she became ill and died, and when they had washed her, they laid her in the upper room. Since Lydda was near Joppa, the disciples, hearing that Peter was there, sent 2 men to him, urging him, Please come to us without delay. So Peter rose and went with them, and when he arrived, he took them into the upper room. All the widows stood beside him, weeping and showing tunics and other garments that Dorcas made while she was with them. But Peter put them all outside and knelt down and prayed. And turning to the body, he said, Tabitha, arise. And she opened her eyes, and when she saw Peter, she sat up. And he gave her his hand and raised her up. Then, calling the saints and widows, he presented her alive, and it became known throughout all Joppa, and many believed in the Lord. And he stayed in Joppa for many days with one, Simon, a tanner. So, not quite as relevant, a little bit longer. I see the idea or the point, but I just don't think from a service perspective this one's going to, move the needle in the way that I want it to. But we can look at some of the early reflection questions. Jesse says, to what degree should others dictate how we serve? That's really important. Really, really important, Jess. I've got it down here. Under specific applications, I put, we should not compel service under any circumstances. But we also have to have a good theology of what is encouraging and exhorting, all right, instead of compelling. This is a big one, okay? Because I think this rough philosophy of service then leads to that follow-up question, all right? Austin Reed, hello, good to see you. Thompson Prep is a really good resource. I use it all the time. Austin, is that the Thompson Chain Reference Bible? It's good to see you, by the way, Austin. Thanks for swinging by. I appreciate you. Perk says, I see. That's very insightful. Thank you for taking the time to reply. Yes, I agree, Austin. I also just recorded a video for a resource that is not quite like the Thompson Chain Reference, but it's similar. Should be coming out in a couple of weeks, so keep your eyes peeled, Austin. I've got a video coming up soon on a similar, and the reason I say similar, it's kind of a conglomeration of resources here in Logos. Cool. Glad you find it helpful, Austin. Jesse says, to what degree should others dictate how we serve? Because I think this is where things get difficult, right? So now that we have the foundation of service and what the point is, getting into the specifics is where it's difficult, okay? Because the fact of the matter is some Christians might not serve at all, and then some Christians might only serve in alignment with their giftings, never serving out of alignment with their giftings in order to be conformed to the image of Christ. So I need to get into these issues because to me they're some of the most essential aspects, right? Because it gets to Jess's point. To what degree should others dictate how we serve? Because I think the answer is none. But I don't know that to be the case, right? Here's the deal. As a pastor, I'm supposed to be helping people with their spiritual growth and discipleship. What does that look like? Should I be dictating to others how they should be serving for their personal growth and their discipleship? How heavy a hand do I take with that? So, I don't know, very interesting. What if we think what we're doing is service, but others believe it to be indulgent or hobby or self-serving? Jess absolutely crushing. And what areas of service are essential in the church? Keep them coming, Jess. These are hot fire. Really good questions. All right, Perk says, I got an NLT Bible, by the way, and I gotta say, it is so easy to read. I was concerned I was going to have to figure out Old English from KJV, but nay, I feel like NLT is the way, although opinions differ. I actually agree with you, Perk. NLT is my favorite translation for reading large chunks of scripture at a time. I'm talking you're going to sit down for an hour and read the entire Gospel of John or whatever. Man, I wouldn't want any other translation than the NLT for that. It's so easy to read, to your point. It's just enjoyable, right? But I would use different translations for something like in-depth study. I like the NIV also for the very same reason you described, Perk. Really enjoy those translations. Thanks for sharing. Mike, hello, good to see you. Mike asks, do you think hell is eternal? I think I have a video on this. The standard Christian position. So there you go, Mike. Check out that video on my YouTube channel if you want to look a little more in depth at the topic of hell and my treatment of it. The standard evangelical Christian position is that hell is eternal torment, okay? Now, I believe there's a lot about the afterlife we don't know, even taking all the biblical passages into account. I think there's a lot about the afterlife we don't know, and I think it's important to be not so dogmatic on this issue, okay? So I have seen no reason thus far to reject the standard Christian positions. It's difficult, don't get me wrong, but I have seen no reason thus far to reject those positions. but I hold to these positions tentatively because I believe the nature of the afterlife is not very explicit in the Bible. I don't think the Bible is trying to teach us very much about the afterlife. It talks about it incidentally and in passing, but it doesn't state to us explicitly all aspects of it, okay? You believe it's destruction and annihilation. That is certainly a position that some have taken, and some good evangelicals have taken that position. I believe John Stott famously is an annihilationist. So that is something that people believe. I do not personally hold that position. I can see why people hold it. And again, I think it's important to not be too dogmatic on this issue. You can see the video I put there for my thoughts on hell, and I think that video is explicitly about thinking about hell as eternal torment and what that would be like, right? So give that one a look, Mike. See what you think. Upon death, where do we go in your opinion? This is another one that, so oftentimes there is described the topic of soul sleep, and the idea is this: if when I die, I am in heaven, well, heaven isn't here and now, right? At least the new heavens and new earth is described in the book of Revelation. So, like, what happens in the interim period? What about my judgment? When am I judged, right? If God's going to judge my life and my works, all that type of stuff, what happens then? And so some denominations have come up with the idea of soul sleep. And that's the idea that when you die, you wake up immediately and it's judgment day. Okay, but your soul slept for however long it takes to get to Judgment Day. That's not the standard Christian position. The standard Christian position is absent with the body, present with the Lord. So you die and you go to heaven to wait with God, and then you await the great white throne judgment and all that stuff that's going to happen at the end times. Okay, again, I see no reason to reject the standard Christian position on this. I also think there's not a lot explicitly in the Bible about this one either, and so I think that there are reasonable positions to take here. This is another one I hold to pretty tentatively, but that's kind of my stance, right? Where did Christ go upon death? So there are a variety of opinions on this. I think the position that I've heard that is very fascinating to me is that Christ descended into hell and preached the gospel to those who are captive and led the captives free, right? So that's a very interesting idea. Again, we're not given much information on this. Mike, I do want you to know I'm happy to answer your questions. I also want you to know I'm not too dogmatic about secondary and tertiary matters. So if you feel passionately one way or the other, that's fine by me. It doesn't bother me any bit at all. And then thirdly, I want you to know, like, I won't sit here and just be litmus test repeatedly, right? Like, if I feel like you're just trying to litmus test me over and over and over again to see how orthodox I am, I'm probably going to stop answering questions like that, if that makes sense. So I say all that in love and respect. I appreciate you being here.
Your life is not in your hands.
Let's
your
go.
Life is in the hands of God.
Thank you.
Cal Magic Guy just resubbed for 33 months.
Thank you so much, Cal Magic. Appreciate that. 33 months. Much love, Cal Magic. You are amazing. I can't believe we're almost getting up to 3 years here. Wow. Incredible. Incredible. Thank you for all the love and support over the years, brother. I really appreciate it. Mike says, I do feel strongly, brother. I just like to hear others' views. I'm just not passionate about these subjects, Mike. So I'm probably not going to tell you anything you haven't heard, you know? I think I basically see no reason to depart from the standard Christian positions on most of these topics, but I can understand why other people have different views, and I don't want to be super dogmatic on what I feel are secondary and tertiary matters, right? So that's kind of my opinion. You're more than welcome to ask. I appreciate you being here. All right, Jess has another one here. What happens when we serve internally and externally? Are there markers or measurables for us to self-assess whether or not what we're doing is true service? Wow. These are really deep questions. And these are the questions I need to figure out answers to. For sure. Are there reasons why someone shouldn't serve? Got to put them all down. All right. Where are we at now? Perk says, Also, adding to what I said the time before last, may I ask your denomination? I remember one time you said you could recommend good churches in my state, California, but I don't know if I'm misremembering. No, I did say that before, and I even did that for a viewer, and they started attending that church and then started serving. It was incredible. I probably fall under the rubric of Reformed Baptist. I have a Reformed background from going to Presbyterian seminary, and I'm Baptistic just because of attending Calvary Chapel and non-denominational style churches. And I was never convinced of paedobaptism. So that's kind of where I land, Reformed Baptist-ish. I'm really not dogmatic about a lot of these things. I used to be very strongly Calvinistic. These days I don't care as much, although I still see no reason to abandon that approach or those opinions at this time. And yeah, I don't know. A lot of the standard theological and doctrinal positions that Christians like to argue about just don't interest me these days. These days I'm interested in epistemology. These days I'm interested in metaphysics. These days I'm interested in practical application of ministry. These days I'm interested in discipleship. Those are some of my primary areas. And so I'm very pragmatic. And oftentimes many of these theological minutiae get pretty far away from pragmatics, right? So that's kind of my general stance, Perk. Appreciate your question. Mike says, I think if Christ went to the heart of the earth for 3 days and nights upon death, we should expect we're going where he went and resting until judgment. So, Mike, would you say that the parable of Lazarus and the rich man is actually descriptive of reality? It's not a parable? Cal Magic says, Jesse, I struggle as I know when I'm serving, but I struggle if I'm doing it for my glory because I'm a good teacher or God's. Seems to me that I should do things without thought ensures I'm not taking credit, but I'm not sure that's helpful in my goal. I understand what you're saying, Cal Magic. And that's hard because it's hard to parse our own hearts, right? It's hard to parse our own hearts. I'm actually going to put all of Jesse's ideas down here, and it's essential for us to dig into these topics. Mike says, I think it's descriptive of reality, but in a future time, when we're woken from rest, both the lost and saved. I've got you, Mike. I see. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, the parable of Lazarus and the rich man has always fascinated me. I like it a lot. Perk says, would you say you fall under the Southern Baptist umbrella? I gotta say, as a newcomer, I find it unfortunate there's so many denominations and sub-denominations within one denomination. I know exactly what you mean, Perk. No, we are not Southern Baptist at our church. We would get along well with Southern Baptists, but we are independent Baptists, which means our church is all its own, right? Which has its benefits and its negatives as well. So, no, but if my church weren't here, and the only other option, if you just transformed my church into a Southern Baptist church, it would still be the church I would attend. You see what I mean? So it's very close to where we're at. But we're independent Baptists. We're not Southern Baptist. Cal Magic, which is the larger number? The number of poker hand combinations or the number of Protestant denominations? Probably poker hand combinations. But it's probably a close race, Cal Magic. That's funny. I appreciate that. Yoshi says, the First Baptist. That's right. First Baptist Church of Leadville. That's awesome. Guys, I'm out of tea. My last little sip of hojicha, but I did bring some water. Got me some ice water. I love ice water. Love it. Really nice. It's funny because in the previous topics on these philosophy of ministry things, I felt like I had sufficient time with 1.5 to 2 hours to really hit the high points in a comprehensive way and get people a perspective on where we're going, right? This one, I don't feel that way. This one feels so complicated. So complicated. And so I just got to do the best I can. Just got to do the best I can in this one. With this one, I just feel like...
Your life is not in
come on,
your
G-Funk.
hands. Your
What?
life is in the hands of God.
That 3 years.
G-Funk Railroad just resubbed for 37 months.
Woo! Thank you so much, G-Funk. 3 years. 3 years. There's my testimony, Yoshi. It's, I believe, hidden. I believe it's a private video on my channel. But if you have the direct link, I believe you can watch it and listen to it. So there it is. There you go. 3 years is a long time for show. No doubt, G-Funk. I appreciate you. That's awesome. It's been a while since I've seen you, and yet you've just been supporting this entire time. Thank you so much. God bless you. Appreciate all your love and support. Sorry, just getting some ideas down. These are simmering right now. I need to get them down, and then I'll continue to engage with you guys in chat. Give me a second. Give me a second.
Jesus said, I am the
Oh, come
way
on.
and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father
Let's
but
go.
through me. And he is calling out to you today.
The Mr. Beard just subscribed.
Let's go. Fantastic. Mr. Beard, come on. Subscribe with Prime. We can hear that
This
Steve
is the
Lawson.
biggest room of freaked out snowflakes you've ever seen in your life.
Freaked out snowflakes.
Violent
Come on.
Midget 300 cheered. X100.
Let's go. Violent jumping on the bandwagon with 100 bits. Thank you, guys. That's awesome. Appreciate you all so much. Whoa. Guys, we are on a hype train. We're on a hype train, y'all. If you donate 100 bits or sub or more, you get a special emote. Awesome. Thank you so much. Wow. Let me get one more thought down, then I'm going to be engaging with you guys in chat, okay? All right, we're good. We're good. Vector. All righty. Now let's catch up here. Samantha, hello, good to see you. Samantha says, so glad to see you back here on YouTube. Yes, so glad to be back, and looks for some video uploads coming in the future. I know we've been MIA for a few months. We're going to remedy that in the near future. Praise God. Perk says, I see. May I ask, have you ever had a disagreement with another pastor where you find yourself concerned people at that pastor's church might focus on me and getting my teaching right? And if I can do that, then I can affect or influence my little part of the world, right? Awesome. All right. Let me catch back up on Twitch here. Mike says, does destruction not make more sense to you, that the Lord would end all sin and sinners and the new millennium be just those saved? I used to hold to traditional view of eternal hell, but it doesn't hold up to me now. So like I said earlier, I find no reason to abandon the traditional Christian position. What you just described makes sense to me also. And I do believe the verses that talk about the afterlife are sufficiently ambiguous that we should not be terribly dogmatic about this. But if you watch the video I put out there, I talk about C.S. Lewis' description of eternal hell and how we consign ourselves to it and how we readily stay and participate in it ourselves. And that makes sense to me also. So like I said before, I see no reason to abandon the traditional Christian position. Even though I can understand why somebody might think it's not compelling. All right. Mike asked a 1-minute recap on my testimony, how I got saved. So that's available there. Oh, it's stuttering, it says. Imperfect, good to see you. Welcome back for me. Oh, it's stuttering, I think. Did stream die? Oh, no. There it goes. Okay. Looks like I was skipping. I am streaming off our Wi-Fi. Okay, so... that's probably bad practice. Probably shouldn't do that, but it's been effective for the last, I don't know, several streams. So if it keeps skipping, let me know and I can try to hardwire. Perk says, I didn't hear your reply. Could I repeat it? Yeah, let me repeat it real quick. All I said, Perk, was I have been worried about that in the past, but these days I'm more focused on myself and making sure that I'm doing good teaching, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of false teaching out there. I can't police everyone. I'm not even convinced I'm supposed to be a theology policeman. And so as such, I just focus on my teaching and what I'm doing, and I try to be as correct as I can be, and then I go from there, right? So that's kind of my approach, Perk. Hopefully that came through. All righty. So Mike, all I said... if I dropped, all I was saying is that I don't see a need to abandon the traditional position. I can understand why somebody might, but in that video, I talk about why I think an eternal hell can make sense and is consistent with the biblical texts. But again, the biblical passages are sufficiently ambiguous that I can understand people holding a variety of opinions, and I see this as more of a secondary issue rather than a primary one. My testimony got linked. Vector calls my stream garbage. Par for the course. Mr. Beard showing the love. Appreciate you. Hey, y'all. I'm Josh from Tennessee. Welcome, Josh from Tennessee. How are you doing? Good. Mr. Beard says, I enjoyed your video about building a Logos library for cheap. Really helped me out. That's awesome, Mr. Beard. Fantastic. Glad to hear it. If you're patient over time, you can build a very good, cheap Logos library. Vector says, such a good streamer. What is this AE2? No. He's referring to Age of Empires 2, my bad streaming where I just focus and type. And then, of course, the stream dropped. Yeah, it looks like we're back now. Apologies for the drop, y'all. And Vector says, you have to have perfect theology to police anyone, right? Ooh, that's an interesting idea. Probably so. Probably so. Or at least maybe in the area in which you are policing, right? So maybe not perfect theology, but perfect theology in the area in which you're policing somebody. Alrighty. This sparks joy. Well, good, Vector. I'm glad I could spark joy. Even if it's with you being critical. That's so funny. All right. What is service and why should we serve? I talk about that. Yeah, I'm just going to have to kind of logically talk through my approach to service. This is going to be a really challenging lesson to teach for sure. I will say, I think this approach is perfectly consistent with Paul when he talks about us being different. So, I believe this is in 1 Corinthians. What is it, 9? I'll just start there. 8. Maybe it's 10. No? It's been a while since I read through Corinthians. I should probably just read through the whole book again sometime. Maybe in the NLT, huh? Just glad you're not a freaked out snowflake. We'd never work. Appreciate you, Vector. Perk says, yeah, I heard it this time. Thank you. I asked because since I don't have a church, I think it'd be good to find one, but it seems like many have gone political or, as a guy on YouTube said, oddly feminized. I see what you're saying. Yeah, there are good churches out there, but it seems like they're less and less open, if that makes sense. It seems like a lot of people are... I don't know, like, it just seems like a lot of churches are not... They're kind of what you described, right? Like, you have churches that are, like, either really fundamentalist and not open-minded at all, or churches that, you know, are not even focused on religion. They're super political. So there's a bunch of stuff there. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't know, Perk. You can find good churches out there, but it's difficult. You kind of got to know what you're looking for. Perk, are you on our Discord? You can DM me on Discord, and I could try to search for good churches in your area and tell you the churches I would try first. I won't do it live on stream, but I can elsewhere. Mike brought up one of my favorite topics. Let's go to the big screen. All righty. Mike wants to know my thoughts on flat Earth. Okay. I love conspiracy theorists, right? And flat earthers are some of the best. The reason I love them is they don't take anything for granted, okay? They assume, like, how would we know, right? Like, to me, there's a skepticism to flat earthers that I just really enjoy and appreciate. There's a quote from C.S. Lewis that I really like. And here, let me head over to Logos and I'll show you this quote from C.S. Lewis. So this is from Mere Christianity. It's one of Lewis's most well-known books. Listen to what Lewis says here. I think this is fantastic. Okay? Now listen, it's this paragraph. He says, I have explained why I have to believe that Jesus was and is God. And it seems plain as a matter of history that he taught his followers that the new life was communicated in this way. In other words, I believe it on his authority. Do not be scared by the word authority. Believing things on authority only means believing them because you have been told them by someone you think trustworthy. 99% of things you believe are believed on authority. I believe there is such a place as New York. I have not seen it myself. I could not prove by abstract reasoning that there must be such a place. I believe it because reliable people have told me so. The ordinary man believes in the solar system, atoms, evolution, and the circulation of the blood on authority because the scientists say so. Every historical statement in the world is believed on authority. None of us have seen the Norman Conquest or the defeat of the Armada. None of us could prove them by pure logic as you prove a thing in mathematics. We believe them simply because people who did see them have left writings that tell us about them. In fact, on authority. A man who jibbed at authority in other things, as some people do in religion, would have to be content to know nothing all his life. Oh, I love that quote. It's so good. Now, here's the point. Here's why I like this. In the same way that Lewis says he believes there's such a place as New York, the sort of statement that seems obvious to everyone, in the same way, flat earthers are like, what if there is no New York? You see what I mean? Like, flat earthers don't take this authority piece for granted nearly as much as most human beings. Most human beings take all of this authority stuff for granted. And flat earthers are like, I don't know about authority. Huh? I question authority. And for that, I love flat earthers. I love these conspiracy theorists, right? Like, that is awesome that they're willing to question all of this stuff. Now, I personally am not a flat earther. I don't find the arguments compelling. I know of flat earthism, and I've studied it and researched it and all that type of stuff. But epistemologically, I like conspiracy theorist skepticism. They make me happy, okay? Because they question things and they don't take anything for granted. And I'm a big fan of that. So anyway, there you go. No, I'm not a flat earther. But we take a lot of things on authority without even thinking about it as human beings. And sometimes that leads us astray. All right. Let's catch up. Let's see. Pastor Tanner, do you remember that program Dr. W used for chats? Yes, I'm using it. It's called Chatty. I'm using it right now. Oh for 2, bud. God will open your eyes, brother. I love it. Oh, man. That's awesome. Mike Oxlong, I don't think the devil would deceive the world about a thing if it didn't have a purpose. Would the Bible support a globe earth? I think it can support either. I don't think the Bible has much to say about whether the earth is flat or round. Perk says, no, not yet. Do you have a link to Discord on YouTube? Vector, people are having trouble with the Discord link. I would like to get people access. Does that work for you? Does that work for you, Perk? Perk says, conspiracy theories. Oh, how about this? Have you ever read the book of Enoch? A lot of people think it's genuinely part of the Bible, since it seems to answer many questions from Genesis or connect dots. Enoch's a great book. That book's a lot of fun. We don't have a bot on YouTube. Correct. Failing. I'm failing. We'll eventually get a bot on YouTube, but not right now. Great questions, guys. I'm having a lot of fun. Mike, I enjoy you. You're a good time. Appreciate you. Thanks for being present. Okay. Now I want to talk about Christians who are not serving at all, or those who will only serve in alignment. Okay? And I still don't know about this question of compelling service. Oh, I got distracted. I wanted to talk about gifts. Let's go ahead and read 1 Corinthians chapter 12 and see if any of these verses are relevant. I'm in. Thank you, sir. Awesome, Perk. Tanner, I have a sad. What up, Ping? Do you have a sad because the earth is flat? PT, can Chatty do all the chats? No, it cannot. I believe it's Twitch only. I have both of them open, Vector. I have the Chatty chat for Twitch, and then I have the YouTube chat below it. Probably not the best setup, but it's what I got. Ping says, I think I missed last week's stream, which means rip my streak. That is a good reason to has a sad. I am sorry. Garbage, says Vector. Not to you, Ping. Vector's saying garbage to my system of managing the chats. Oh, man. It's in the channel of the other video descriptions. It needs to be added to the live blurb. Great idea, Vector. Okay, let's read 1 Corinthians chapter 12. Now, concerning spiritual gifts, brothers, I do not want you to be uninformed. You know that when you were pagans, you were led astray to mute idols, however you were led. Therefore, I want you to understand that no one speaking in the Spirit of God ever says Jesus is accursed, and no one can say Jesus is Lord except in the Holy Spirit. Now, there are varieties of gifts, but the same Spirit. And there are varieties of service, but the same Lord. Ooh, there's our word for service. Varieties of service. And there are varieties of activities, but it is the same God who empowers them all in everyone. To each is given the manifestation of the Spirit for the common good. For to one is given through the Spirit the utterance of wisdom, and to another the utterance of knowledge according to the same Spirit, to another faith by the same Spirit, to another gifts of healing by the one Spirit, to another the working of miracles, to another prophecy, to another the ability to distinguish between spirits, to another various kinds of tongues, to another the interpretation of tongues. All these are empowered by one and the same Spirit who apportions to each one individually as he wills. For just as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, so it is with Christ. For in one Spirit we were all baptized into one body, Jews or Greeks, slaves or free, and all were made to drink of one Spirit. For the body does not consist of one member, but many. If the foot should say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less a part of the body. If the ear should say, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less a part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would be the sense of hearing? If the whole body were an ear, where would be the sense of smell? As it is, God arranged the members in the body, each one of them as he chose. If all were a single member, where would the body be? And it is, there are many parts, yet one body. The eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you, nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. On the contrary, the parts of the body that seem to be weaker are indispensable. And on those parts of the body that we think less honorable, we bestow the greatest honor, and our unpresentable parts are treated with greater modesty. So, I can't read this whole chapter, but I definitely like 22 and on. So, I'm going to read 1 Corinthians 12 and like 3 to something. Right now, we'll just say 3 to 12. But then I also want to read 22 to something, which our more presentable parts do not require. But God has so composed the body, giving greater honor to the part that lacked it, that there may be no division in the body, but that the members may have the same care for one another. If one member suffers, all suffer together. If one member is honored, all rejoice together. Now you are the body of Christ, and individually members of it. God has appointed you in the church first apostles, prophets, teachers, miracles, gifts of healing, helping, administrating, various kinds of tongues. Are all apostles? Are all prophets? Are all teachers? Do all work miracles? Do all possess gifts of healing? Do all speak with tongues? Do all interpret? But earnestly desire the higher gifts, and I will still show you an more excellent way. And so that's through 31. And then the chapter about love is relevant. So I'm actually going to go 22 through 13 2. Okay? So all of this is relevant for sure. For sure. All right, let's see. Ping says he would be accurate to me also. Ping is feeling like garbage, y'all. We love you, Ping. You don't have to feel like garbage. We're happy you're here. All right, what else? Thoughts on aliens? Don't know. Don't know. I don't think the Bible talks about them much. Mike Heiser's take is that aliens are demons. Don't know. What is going on here? Read the whole chapter only on stream, Ping. I am the alien, says Vector. Mike Oxlong says they are demonic, not aliens. I think you would like Mike Heiser's work on this topic. Mike Oxlong tomorrow has enough trouble of its own, no doubt. Ping says, Tanner, Epitome and I figured out how you can afford Logos. You're Simon the Tanner from the Bible, and you have invested for over 2,000 years. That's awesome, Ping. That's right. You nailed it. Caught. He caught me, y'all. Oh, man. All right, Samantha says, what's your thoughts on women teachers? I teach a Sunday school class, but I would like to teach an adult class. Just curious on your thoughts on it. So, Samantha, I actually think I have a video on this. I think I have 2 videos on this, actually. Vector, do we have the video links for the women in ministry videos I did? So here's one I did on women pastors. I wrote a paper on this in college, Samantha. So here's one I did on women pastors. I also did one on, like, gender roles in the church. Ping says, you look good for 2,000 years. Like I said, you guys caught me. ESV Plus. I think ESV Plus, Ping, includes the Deuterocanonicals. The Crossway did an ESV translation that includes Tobit and Baruch and Maccabees, etc. So I think that's what ESV Plus is. I don't know that for sure, but I think so. Yeah, no problem, Samantha. Vector's going to try to dig up the second one, but I'll answer your question right here. So I do think you'll find the videos helpful, and we can get you the information. But generally speaking, I am happy for a woman to teach an adult Bible study that has mixed genders in it. The reason is my interpretation and understanding of 1 Timothy chapter 2, when he says, I do not permit a woman to teach or exercise authority over a man, is that teaching and exercising authority comes together, okay? So it's not just teaching, and it's not just exercising authority. It's exercising authority in a teaching function or capacity, and that's typically a role reserved for a pastor, okay? So that interpretation for me means that I am happy for a woman to teach an adult Bible study where even men and women can be in attendance. I have no problem with that, because to me it's not a teaching and exercising authority function. You see, the formal way of exercising authority in the church is through the means of eldership, and for me, eldership involving a teaching role or capacity is what is being forbidden in 1 Timothy chapter 2, right? So that's kind of my general brief take, Samantha. The video I talk about there goes into a lot more depth. I would call this the happy complementarian approach, right? Oh yeah, that's the video that we're looking for. But it's like a made up word. Yeah, I can't get it to work. The video I have on complementarianism versus egalitarianism. Maybe the word egalitarian will do it. Anyway, the video I have on that topic as well goes in depth into kind of this approach that I have. So I would call myself like happy complementarian. And so I believe God made us different, and we have different roles and functions as men and women. But, I think the general consensus of what Paul is teaching there is not forbidding a woman teaching a Bible study, for example, right? So there you go. Let's see. Ping says, wouldn't every time we teach out of our final authority be using authority if you're preaching the Bible? The thing is, Ping, that if a woman, so let's give an example. Jess teaches ladies' Bible studies at our church. If she were really good at teaching a certain topic, I would happily invite her to teach an adult Bible study with all present. Now, there might be some people in that room who have questions, right? Like, why is your wife teaching a Bible study to mixed genders? And I would happily stand up in front and say, essentially, my wife is teaching under my authority. You see what I mean? Now, my authority is not, mine. It's given to me of God. God has given me the authority in the church as the pastor. But I would get up and say, she's teaching a Bible study. This is not teaching and exercise authority in a 1 Timothy 2 sense. It's not the Sunday morning service. It's not from the pulpit in that, Sunday morning capacity. And so she is currently doing this under my authority. Boom. Right? And I would feel comfortable with that. And I'm not the only complementarian who takes that approach. There are plenty of complementarians who take that approach. It's a really good question. Well, watch our videos on this topic, Samantha, if you have further questions. It's a really good question. Mike Oxlong. By the way, the book of Enoch is one of the best books God has given us, and we should all get involved. I love Mike Oxlong. Mike Oxlong is my new favorite. Man, this guy's awesome. I'm having a ball. You guys are a lot of fun. Samantha Johnson, yes, total agreement with you on that. So well explained. Awesome. Praise God. Praise God. All right, let me jump back now. Perk asked a couple questions. Perk says, by the way, Pastor, may I ask, in Genesis, I remember it saying the children of Adam and Eve married other people. But where do those people come from if Adam and Eve are the only humans, or could it be? Yeah, Gleason Archer actually talks about this in his Bible Difficulties book. And it's kind of a classic conundrum, right? Short answer is, here it is, New International Encyclopedia of Bible Difficulties by Gleason Archer. The standard answer is that Cain married his cousin, okay? And it is what it is, right? Seems off to us, but who else is there to marry, right? But let me find it. I know one of the questions is about it, right? Right here. The two sons of Adam and Eve had wives. Where did their wives come from? Genesis 5:4 tells us that during Adam's long lifetime of 930 years, 800 after the birth of Seth, he had other sons and daughters. Since he and Eve had not been ordered to produce a large family in order to populate the earth, it is reasonable to assume that they continued to have children for a long period of time under the then ideal conditions for longevity. Without question, it was necessary for the generation following Adam to pair off brothers and sisters to serve as parents for the ensuing generation. Otherwise, the human race would have died off. It was not until the course of subsequent generations that it became possible for cousins and more distant relations to choose each other as marriage partners. There seems to be no definite word about the incestuous character of brother-sister marriage until the time of Abraham, who emphasized to the Egyptians that Sarah was his sister, thus implying to the Egyptians that if she was his sister, she could not be his wife. In Leviticus 20:17, the actual sanction against brother-sister marriage is spelled out. But as for Cain and Seth and all the other sons of Adam who married, they must have chosen their sisters as wives. There you go. Good question, Perk. Oh no. Vector created a new command. He's entitled it the sexist video. Great. I would expect nothing less. Samantha, there's the other video I did on this topic. It's on complementarianism versus egalitarianism. Thank you, Ping, for giving Vector such a good idea. Golly. Mike Oxlong, complementarian is somebody who believes that men and women complement each other in our roles and responsibilities in the church. That we aren't serving in the exact same capacities, although there's substantial overlap. Mike Oxlong, the Book of Jubilees and Enoch names these other sons and daughters. Weird, these key texts have been removed. The standard Christian position, Mike Oxlong, is that these have not been removed, but they have not been identified as canonical down through church history. And especially, we lean a lot into the Masoretic tradition in terms of forming our Old Testament canon. And again, the standard Christian position would be that, you know, these books were not removed. They were just never included. They're spurious, right? That said, Book of Jubilees and Enoch are both really fun reads. Highly recommended. Have you read the Book of Enoch? It reads so differently than Scripture. And it's so much fun, Ping. Nothing but clicks, baby. Ad revenue. You will get your commission. Oh, man. You guys are ridiculous. We're having too much fun tonight, y'all. That's funny. Okay, let's continue. I want to talk about, we already talked about giftings. Let me just see where I want to stop on the giftings here. So this one should go to 11, I would think. Boom. Then you guys are funny tonight. I can't engage. Let's keep going. But I still need to answer the question of serving outside your giftings. I need to... I don't know that I have... Do I have biblical precedence for this? I don't think I do. Engage, streamer. No. You guys have to keep going. The Ping, Mike, Vector, Yoshi, rectangle that's going on is a mess. Oh, man. It's a mess. Jess, are you not having fun? Garbage is what it is. Guys, I can't actively moderate the music the whole time. It is what it is. It's like Kenny G in a trash compactor. Fine. We got to skip. You wanted me to engage. Skip. It's by John Epping. Okay? John Epping. For anyone who cares. I was having fun. Whatever. We'll listen to boring things. I cannot condone this. Fine, Jess. Fine. Not gonna lie, that's odd. Like, I get how else would humanity continue, but one has to wonder. There are biological reasons why we oppose the practice nowadays. Babies are born with issues and defects. Some have gone into this, and they say that starting with Adam and Eve, our genetics were more pure, and so there were not the risks of birth defects and issues back then like there are now. And so the idea being that as we descended from Adam and Eve, our genetics have gotten less and less pure, and they're more prone to breakdown because we're further into the fall, further from Eden. So I've heard it put that way from scientifically minded Christians before, Perk. Don't know, it's a speculation, but that's what I've heard some Christians say. No, it's good to ask questions, Perk, as long as we recognize, like, yeah, it's going to be hard to tell what the real answer is on this, right? Mike, I think you should play the Axel Foley song from Beverly Hills Cops as background music. Just on repeat. Just over and over. Oh, man. We getting DMCA'd today, Yoshi? John Epping can get to stepping into the trash can. Wow, Vector. Wow. An ice pick to the ears. Brutal. Okay, so I don't have biblical precedents for this. I need to find it. Then I find this to be a fascinating question. Let me look up the word for serve that's used here in 1 Corinthians 12. I think it's diakonia. Varieties of service, diakonia, yes. And this one starts in verse 4, not 3. So let me fix that hyperlink. Okay, we good. We good. Wait, there's 2 Enochs? Didn't we do a video on this? Yes, there's more. There's like 4 Enochs. Let me bring up the ancient Near Eastern text. There's like 1st Enoch, 2nd Enoch, 3rd Enoch, 4th Enoch. There's a bunch of them, bro. I think there's 4 of them. What? How is Enoch not in this? Surely it's in the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls Bible. Boom. Will Enoch be in here? 1st Enoch. And that's it. It only has 1st Enoch. In the Dead Sea Scrolls Bible. Yeah, there's like 4 of them. They're pretty fun. They're all fun. The early ones are the best. I don't think you can get better than 1st and 2nd Enoch. I mean, those are the classics. 3rd and 4th Enoch just getting crazy, right? But 1st and 2nd, ooh, hot fire. Yoshi, I know an Enoch IRL, so there's probably more. Oh, man. Oh, he's not canonical, though. Exclamation mark 1 billion Enochs. Oh, my goodness. Do I consider Enoch as canon? No. No, I don't aim to confuse, Perk, but sometimes I'm confusing. I know we're talking a lot about Enoch. Look, Enoch's a fun read. I don't believe it's canonical, but it's fun. And Enoch, it has prophecies in it, which is kind of fascinating. Mike says First Enoch is the only biblical text in the Dead Sea Scrolls canon. The only one? No. That's awesome, though. The third season of Enoch jumped the shark, no doubt. Ping, he jumped the shark. Oh, man. That's awesome. Look, Perk, Mike Oxlong says it's definitely canon. So go with Mike. If you want it to be canon, go with Mike. And he'll lead you down the path that rocks. There's prophecy in it, and there's prophecy of Jesus in it. It's canon if it can be shot from one. I see what you did there. Am I condoning... Am I condoning puns now? Is that what has happened? My goodness. Mike Eisner? Heiser. Guys, Mike Heiser is Ping's favorite Bible scholar. He's never seen a Bible scholar he liked more than Mike Heiser. Christ prophecies from pre-flood. Yeah, no doubt, Ping. Tongue firmly in cheek. Oh, man. Too much fun here. Too much fun. Wait, Eisner is the Disney CEO. That's awesome. Cal Magic says Enoch is in the Ethiopian Bible. I didn't know that. That doesn't surprise me, though. You can see it's in the Dead Sea Scrolls, but there's a lot of stuff in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Yoshi, if it's cannonbolical. Oh, man. Oh, man. That's fantastic. Okay. To what degree should others dictate how we serve? Well, Perk says, oh, right, Ethiopian Orthodox have Enoch in there as well as something called the Apocrypha. Pretty interesting, IMO. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting books out there that are fun to dig into. Mike, have you ever read, I think it's called like the Testimony of Adam and Eve or something like that? It talks about what happened after they got out of the garden. And like they go stand in the river for like months as punishment. They like go punish themselves in a river for like months. They just stand there eternally, and then I think Satan comes and convinces Eve to get out of the river, or like it's a oh man, there's so many good books out there, right? We're really missing out by just confining ourselves to 66 books. Oh, it's a good one. I didn't know Esther wasn't in the Dead Sea Scrolls. That's interesting. Oh, let's get Mike really going. Let's talk about Lilith. I'm sure Mike has some good opinions about Lilith, no doubt. He is well read on these a variety of topics. Now let's go to some of Jess's questions here. What if we think what we are doing is service, but others believe it to be indulgent or a hobby or self-serving? Next, what areas of service are essential in the church? What happens when we serve internally and externally? Are there markers or measurables for us to self-assess whether or not we're doing a true service? Are there any reasons why someone shouldn't serve? Man, these are such good questions. Yeah, I think essentially what I'm going to be teaching tomorrow is just like me trying to logically walk through and think about all these issues because it's just so complicated. It's so complicated, this service issue. Perk says, maybe Mike should be streaming too. No doubt. No doubt. Oh, Mike says Lilith doctrine is garbage. Okay. Well, I'm glad we know that. Appreciate that. Pink says, I'm 99% sure it's not in the collection. I think the opinion/theory is they left near Purim, so they wanted it for that. I see. Which is talked about in Esther. Perk says, by the way, Pastor, one last question if you don't mind. You mentioned you play video games. How do you go about it without letting it become an idol? Oh, I don't, Perk. That's my problem. Guys, I struggle so much with self-control and self-discipline. And anything I like in life, I want to go 110% on. It doesn't matter what it is. If I like it, I want to go 110% on it. And so video games is one I really like. And I can binge video games so bad. So I have to be really careful with how much I play video games and participate. Honestly, Perk, it's probably not ideal, but the way I manage it right now is I keep myself so busy that I don't have time, right? If I'm so busy that I don't have time, then I don't even step foot in that arena. It's kind of like the alcoholic who doesn't step his foot into a bar because he knows it's going to mess him up, right? So I do the same, right? Like I stay pretty far away from video games, and I try to only participate under very select situations and conditions because otherwise I start binging them and they get out of control in my life, and it's no good, right? So yeah, how do I go about it without letting it become an idol? I struggle. This is probably my primary sin, is gluttony, i.e. whatever thing I like to do, I want to do it 110% all the time, right? And so it's horrible. Perk, do you play anything, or do you pick only kid or family-friendly games? On that front, I'm open to playing anything. So, no, I guess not anything. There are games that are off limits for Christians, of course. But like I used to play Valorant on stream, right? There's blood, gore, shooting in that game. So I'm obviously not opposed to, say, violence in video games. But again, this is an area where somebody needs to know thyself and make sure that personally they're not participating in things that cause them to stumble and, be in a bad way, right? Jess says, Pastor Tanner, when does serving turn into martyrdom? My goodness, Jess is killing it with these questions. I need to sit down and just have a long think about how tomorrow's going to go. We've got plenty of great content, but I have to walk through logically what to do and where to go with it. Ping says, Tanner, are we the reason you don't stream more anymore? No, you guys are not. You guys are the reason I keep streaming. I have so much fun hanging out with you guys. The reason I don't stream more is I have too many things going on in my life. Many of you guys know this. I'm bivocational, right? So I also have a secular job in addition to being a pastor. So I have two jobs. Now I have two young children. Okay, so I have two jobs and two young children, right? Not only that, my wife has a music career, a budding music career, where she is absolutely crushing, and her music is going really well right now. So I have two jobs, two young children, and I need to be empowering my wife so that she can work as well. Then I stream and create YouTube videos on the side. You see what I mean? That's why. I wish I had more time. I just don't have time, right? And again, to Perk's question earlier, this is how I stop myself from making video games an idol. I just fill my life with so much stuff, right? So yeah, that's what's going on. I would love to stream more, but there just ain't enough time in the day to do all the things. So I just try to do the things that I think are most important, right? Cal Magic says, so much of service depends on motivation, heart, which is God's terrain. I love this comment, Cal Magic. So much of service depends on motivation, heart, which is God's terrain, as we can never really know our own heart tainted by the sin nature. Absolutely the case. That needs to be mentioned tomorrow. And not only that, I don't even know my own heart, to your point.
This is the biggest room of
come on.
freaked out snowflakes you've ever seen in your life.
Woo! Cal
Cal Magic Guy cheers.
Yes!
X3000.
Much
Jess
love.
wants a date for payment.
Much love. I appreciate that. Cal Magic is a boss. Thank you so much, Cal Magic. 3,000 biddies from Cal Magic. Thank you, thank you. For the freaked out snowflakes in the house, Jess wants a date for payment. Well, we're going to have to go on a date. Courtesy Cal Magic. Thank you. God bless you, sir. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate you so much. Boom. Dropping the hammer. Dropping the hammer. All right. Ping says, self-discipline is hard, man. Speaking as someone who should be working right now. I know the feels, Ping. I know the feels. Vector, Pastor Tanner, keeping yourself busy isn't addressing the issue. That solution has a shelf life. I agree with you, Vector. I absolutely agree with you, right? Like, let me continue to use my alcoholic analogy, right? So you have an alcoholic, and he doesn't go to bars. He doesn't drink any alcohol at all. He stays far, far away from the stuff because he knows if he drinks alcohol, he's going to binge and he's going to end up in the gutter, right? Now, Vector's 100% right. Vector says that isn't solving the problem. Correct. The ideal situation would be that the alcoholic grows in his self-discipline and his self-mastery that he can go into a bar and not even be tempted, right? That would be the ideal situation. But I'm sorry, I just know the flesh too well. You know what I mean? I just know the flesh too well. And so I have to manage myself while the flesh is weak, right? The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So I have to manage myself. And I recognize it's not the ideal. The ideal would be I can play a proper and appropriate amount of video games and then turn them off, and I feel good. I don't need to stop myself, but I just know myself, right? And I know I'm not at the ideal. I know that I haven't addressed the core issue. I know that by limiting my exposure, I'm treating the symptom, not the problem. But it's what I got to do right now because I ain't strong enough. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So I ain't strong enough. And so for now, my approach is going to be to regulate. And it's like manufactured self-discipline, right? It's not real self-discipline, but I don't know how to have real self-discipline yet. So I got to learn to crawl before I can walk, Vec. It's a really good point, though. I'm glad you brought it up. All right. Boom, boom. Mike, I really appreciate your participation tonight. It's been fun. Imperfect says, have you seen him play Truck Sim? He can make a family-friendly game brutal. No doubt, Imperfect. It's not just Valorant, guys. American Truck Simulator, I also can turn into a brutality. It'd be looking like Mortal Kombat up in here. Oh, man. Oh, that's so funny. Oh, analogy. You can set up fences like you've said recently, but there is a step 2 to mature that discipline. You can't stop there. I agree. I don't want to stop there. I want to get better. Mike, is the sun just like, is it like a projection on the dome of the earth? Is it like on a ceiling? Is there a giant ceiling up there? Or is there like a hole that the sun shines through? I don't know. Ping says, yep, want to start small. I got to start small. Perk, have you ever heard of Red Dead Redemption 2? It'd be fun watching you check it out. Haha. I own Red Dead Redemption 2. I've played all of 5 minutes of it. I'm not kidding. Maybe a little bit more than that. I've played the initial, like, you start out and there's like some bad guys that kidnap somebody and you got to go take them out. And then, like, you have to go get a horse out of the wild that's in, like, a snowy mountain or whatever. That's as far as I got. I stopped some bad guys. I saved somebody from being kidnapped. I went into the snow in a mountain. And that's it. I haven't played it beyond that. It was fun. That 30 minutes was a blast. But, yeah. Anyway. There's so much to do, so little time, Perk. So much to do, so little time. Truck Sim, is that the USPS FedEx delivery simulator thing? No, it simulates being an over-the-road trucker, right? So you can buy the different maps, different states, and then, like, you know, you'll be in, I don't know, Las Vegas, and you pick up a delivery, and then you have to drive it over to California and drop it off in Anaheim, you know? And so you're literally just driving, right? It's literally simulating somebody's job, That's what it is. It's so much fun. It's a blast. It's a blast to do other people's jobs in a video game. Mike says there's a ceiling, the dome, but the sun is like 3,000 miles up within the dome. Sun rays show us this, brother. See, there we go. So it's up there, but it's like on the dome. So does it move around the dome and the moon does the same? I have a hard time wrapping my head around the dome part, Mike. I can get there. Trust me, I can get there. It's just going to take me time. Vector, there are some bad guys really getting into the nuance of the game. I'm key at nuance. Nuance is my strength. Guys, I've had too much fun. This is too much fun for one night. Let's see. We had a skip in there, which wasn't great. But if you add up prior to the skip and after the skip, we've done an hour 53. An hour 53, which is pretty good. So I appreciate you all so much. Had a blast tonight. This was a lot of fun. And what I'm going to do is I still have to think through the rest of this topic. You guys brought up some great points, and I'm going to be thinking through it. Tune into our church. If you're on Twitch and you want to watch on Twitch, we're going to live stream to Twitch. But more importantly, tune into our church YouTube channel tomorrow night, and I'll be teaching this lesson tomorrow night at 6 p.m. So I'm going to be summing up some ideas and really digging into it, right? And sharing it. So that's the idea. I really enjoyed the stream tonight. Guys, if you like our content, you want us to do more content, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Our Patreon is, I do a vlog once a week on Patreon, and I just talk for a few minutes about a topic that's been interesting to me. And so I'm going to go ahead and do another Patreon vlog for today. But you guys are amazing. Really enjoyed our time together. Thanks so much for hanging out tonight. And I've been recording some YouTube videos recently, so you should start seeing some YouTube video content, not just live stream content, but video content should start rolling in here in upcoming weeks, okay? Appreciate you all so much. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Take care. God bless. Bye.